Part 33. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 322. Although I sound a little unbelievable, I'm really not kidding. The shop owner lowered his voice and obviously did not dare to speak out. I heard that the little human girl landed outside the city and was discovered accidentally. And now it is hidden in the city lord's mansion, and it has been determined that it will be used as a sacrifice for the eldest lady Transmigration as a wedding ceremony. There are actually creatures that can come to the underworld. After hearing what the boss said seriously, the customer also showed a hint of disbelief. At the same time, I couldn't help but feel a bit fearful. However, if that little girl is caught by the city lord, isn't it going to? The city lord has prepared to reward the little girl to the eldest lady. I am afraid that even if she is not eaten, she will be sacrificed. No matter what, the end will probably be very miserable. After all, in the underworld, the value of a living creature can be easily imagined. But these are no longer within our control. The boss also spoke in a very low voice and very carefully, obviously afraid that onlookers would hear him. But all these words reached Nichen's ears. A living little girl? Could it be that you are referring to the Empress? Nichen's eyes suddenly changed slightly. After all, it is extremely difficult to go to the underworld. I am afraid that only myself and Chu Qingyu will enter the underworld in Lanchuan continent. The only problem is, why do these people call the Empress a little girl? No matter which way you look at it, the Empress should have nothing to do with the little girl. But now, there is no time to worry about these things. Nichen drank tea and quietly listened to the conversation between the boss and the customer. Based on the conversation between the two, he also learned a lot about the underworld. The one in charge of the underworld is the huge Netherworld dynasty. In addition to governing the ghosts that enter the underworld, the Netherworld dynasty also performs its duties and helps living beings with wishes to move forward and live. But because this process is very long, a large number of ghosts who want to move forward can only stay here and wait for a long time, like these ghosts in Luji City. During this period, a scene almost completely similar to the civilization during his lifetime evolved. The city lord Qinzai, who is in charge of the city, rules this place with the powerful power of a powerful emperor who was once a great emperor during his lifetime. After turning into a ghost, Qinzai's temperament seemed to have changed. He did many bad things and often exploited the people in the city. Especially his eldest daughter, which particularly aroused public outrage. So that's it? Nichen nodded slightly, roughly understanding the current situation in the underworld. At this time, the regular customer who was talking to the boss also finished his tea, put the paper money on the table, and left. "Boss, I'll pay the bill too." After drinking all the tea in the cup, Nichen also shouted. "Okay, a big bowl of tea and 2,000 banknotes." The boss quickly greeted me warmly and was ready to collect money. 2,000, Nichen suddenly realized something was wrong. Looking at the piece of paper money that the boss had just taken away, he suddenly realized an extremely serious problem. He now has silver, gold, a lot of copper coins and even spiritual stones in his hands. But there is no currency in the underworld at all. There is obviously no real currency in the underworld. If you directly hand over the money in your hand to the boss, you may not directly reveal your identity. "Ahem, boss, please wait a moment, the money in my hand is a little bit deep." Nichen could only cough slightly and turned around in embarrassment. "Do you still need to find 2,000? The boss looked slightly confused. After all, ghost coins are the cheapest, and many people burn tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of paper for their elders. Therefore, there are still relatively few poor people in the underworld. But a ghost who can't even get out the ghost coins can't rule out that his children and grandchildren are unfilial, or he died accidentally in a foreign land. Thinking of this, The boss suddenly felt a trace of sadness and let out a long sigh. I couldn't help but feel a little sad for the young ghost in front of me who died just because he looked like a young man. Ming coin, Ming coin. At this moment, when he turned around, Nai Chen suddenly had a flash of inspiration and thought of a great idea. It's true that I don't have Ming coins, but I can burn them for myself. Anyway, as long as they are alive, they can burn the underworld coins into the underworld. It's not a problem to burn it yourself. Thinking of this, Nai Chen took out a lot of gold, silver, and copper coins without hesitation and melted them instantly with extremely hot temperature. Nai Chen, you died so miserably. In addition, like a whisper of morning, he felt the changes in these gold, silver, and copper coins in an instant. As it was melted and burned, a stream of dark energy slowly flowed into Nai Chen's hands. The faint blue aura actually condensed into those gold, silver, and copper coins. The only thing that is different is that these gold, silver, and copper coins are in a virtual state and exude a slightly cold ghostly aura. Judging from this point alone, it should indeed have become the currency of the underworld. Boss, these are for you, you don't have to look for them. Nai Chen directly stuffed a large amount of silver into the boss's hand. The top priority was to find Chu Qingyu's traces first. There was no time to worry about the value of the coins. No need to change. But, these are fake money. The boss was stunned for a moment after accepting it and responded quickly. Fake? Fart, I just burned the silver with my own hands. Nai Chen was just halfway through his speech when he suddenly felt something was not right. Indeed, in my impression, those who visited the graves never seemed to burn real money. Hey, it seems that you probably died not long ago. At this time, the boss stepped forward and sighed. Those people in your family may have good intentions but do bad things. They are so naive every day. Why burn real money? When you have time, you must remember to send them a dream. If you want to burn money, burn more ghost money, not real money. Those real gold and silver are all considered fake money in the underworld. Not only no one uses them, but using too much may also violate the law. Nai Chen. Hearing the shop owner's heartfelt words, he was speechless. I have to say that the rules in the underworld are really weird. I didn't expect that the joke about burning real money and turning it into fake ghost money was actually true. Ghosts, retreat, get out of the way. Today, Miss Lin will choose a husband and get married and enjoy the wedding night. At this moment, the voice of the ghost soldiers suddenly rang out on the street outside the tea house. At this moment, the sky has completely darkened. Under the illumination of the street lights, Nai Chen can clearly see. Behind a chariot, there are dozens of male ghosts being escorted forward. They seem to be the candidates for Miss Lin's husband. But the expressions of these male ghosts are almost all filled with fear and terror. It seems that they are extremely afraid of what is coming. Is this, choosing a son-in-law? Nai Chen couldn't help but reveal a little doubt. But soon, his eyes were locked on the chariot. Qin Zishan, the daughter of the city lord. According to the information just heard, on her wedding night, the city lord is likely to reward her with the human little girl who has just been captured. Shock, the love letter was sent to the empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 323. But since we are choosing a son-in-law, why are these male ghosts being suppressed as if they were prisoners? Looking at the scene outside, Nai Chen couldn't help but ask doubtfully. Could it be that Miss Jean is ugly? This. The shop owner obviously hesitated for a moment before he plucked up the courage to answer in a low voice. It's not that Miss Jean is ugly, her appearance can actually be considered pretty good. The main problem is, in addition to Miss Jean's violent and moody personality, almost every ghost in the city knew that her physique was actually extremely yin. This kind of physique is innately deficient, and after death, a steady stream of ghost energy is needed to replenish the yin energy in order to keep the soul alive. Over the years, the city lord has often provided Miss Jean with ghost energy to drink in order to preserve her soul. The problem is that if you only take it once, even if Miss Jean only takes part of it, it can make a ghost depressed for half a month and make it difficult to move. If anyone really becomes Miss Jean's husband, I'm afraid she will eat him up in a few days. The shop owner said, his expression clearly showing fear. Be careful and don't get too close to the door. If they see a young and handsome ghost like you, they might also be arrested. If you are accidentally chosen by Miss Jean, then, I'm afraid your soul will be wiped out. The store owner tried to ask Nai Chen to stay away from the door, but suddenly found that Nai Chen not only had no intention of leaving, but also looked a bit interested. Thank you, boss. I may have to pay for this bowl of tea when I get back. I'll go first. After saying this, Nai Chen actually walked straight out of the store. The store owner was instantly frightened. It seems to me that you just died and entered the underworld, so don't be impulsive. If he is chosen by Miss Jean accidentally, he will be sucked dry and his soul will be gone within a few days. Unfortunately, the store owner's well-intentioned advice did not have any effect. He only saw Nai Chen disappearing into the darkness, heading straight to escort the male ghosts who were about to be recruited as husbands. He even deliberately sneaked into the escort team and was escorted to the city lord's mansion by the Yin soldiers on the side. The shop owner who witnessed the scene was completely dumbfounded. He never thought that there would be such a ghost in the world. Even if he had just died and became a ghost, he wouldn't have done such a thing. You know, what awaits him after doing this is very likely to happen. Looking at the scene outside, the shop owner froze on the spot. Having lived in Luji City for so long, he knew very well how terrible the physique of Miss Jean, the daughter of the city lord, was. No matter what, the person chosen as the son-in-law tonight will eventually die. I'm afraid no soul can survive a night in her hands. At this moment, Nai Chen had already blended into the group of male ghosts being escorted. Hey, that's weird, why do I feel like there's an extra ghost? Suddenly a Yin soldier asked doubtfully. Is there any? Yes, I have. The two Yin soldiers looked at each other in confusion for a few seconds, but soon the other Yin soldier waved his hand. Forget it, never mind it. As long as there are a lot of ghosts, is it possible that someone else is seeking death and sneaking in? If this is the case, the lady doesn't care. SHH, be careful, if Miss Jean hears it. The two Yin soldiers who were talking suddenly lowered their voices. Because they all know that in addition to having an extremely Yin body that can make countless ghosts fear, Miss Jean's temperament is extremely violent and disordered. If one is accidentally overheard, the consequences may be extremely serious. The ghosts retreat and get out of the way. Today, Miss Jean will choose a son-in-law to get married and enjoy the wedding night. The voices of the Yin soldiers ahead sounded again, and many young and strong male ghosts were so frightened that they trembled and hid in their homes and did not dare to come out. But Jean Zishan is the daughter of the city lord after all. There are many ghosts of other ages and genders standing on both sides of the road, or following the Yin soldiers to watch the fun. Hey, it's so pitiful. I wonder which unlucky guy might be chosen by Miss Jean. But I have to say, these male ghosts are really good, especially that male ghost, he is so handsome. Wow wow wow, I saw it too, he's really handsome. Seeing Nai Chen's figure, there were a series of exclamations with a sense of nymphomaniacs. Well, is there something like this in the underworld? Nai Chen looked slightly embarrassed, obviously not expecting this question. If I had known that the underworld was so obsessed with looks, I wouldn't have had to join this team at all. Maybe you can go directly to Jean Zishan, you don't need to choose a son-in-law at all, and you can prepare to enter the bridal chamber directly. With the Yin soldiers escorting him, Nai Chen and other ghosts quickly arrived at the city lord's mansion. Such a large mansion is quite grand, and among the bright lights, there is actually a ring standing high. A contest to recruit a bride? No, The situation seems different. Nai Chen frowned slightly, and at the same time he saw a figure walking out of the chariot and slowly walked to the side where the best seat to watch the ring was. Sure enough, as the boss said, the eldest lady of the Qin family was not good looking, but her appearance was pretty. The only problem is, in those eyes, Nai Chen could actually see a bit of greed, as if he was desperately longing for something. According to the boss, what she longed for might be the yin energy of the ghost. This time, the purpose of recruiting a son-in-law was to get married, but almost all ghosts knew about the other purpose. This lady can give you a chance. Next, you can fight each other. Whoever wins can leave here, and as for the loser, it will be up to this lady to choose. Looking down from above, Qin Zishan looked at the ghosts escorted to the arena. There seemed to be a hint of coldness in the smile on her lips. Fight. The loser may be selected. For a moment, the male ghosts around Nai Chen who were escorted here looked at each other, all showing a sense of fear and terror. After all, this battle may even be related to whether they will die. Looking at each other, no ghost wanted to go on stage first. Why are you so hesitant? The lady gave the order, and you dare not listen. However, the ghost soldiers on the side had already started to take action, and forced several male ghosts onto the stage at the same time. The eyes of those male ghosts were obviously filled with fear. Obviously, no one wanted to lose, and they tried their best to win and get a chance to survive. Only Nai Chen, who had not yet stepped onto the stage, showed a trace of embarrassment. Only the loser can be selected as a son-in-law. But this Luji city looks gloomy and terrifying, but in fact there is no one who can fight. If I want, a slap is enough to slap all the ghosts present. How can I lose this? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 324. There were noisy voices all around the ring, and the civilian ghosts watching were obviously quite interested. After all, watching the excitement is not too big a deal. Qin Zishan's candidates have been determined anyway, so they won't be arrested. But when they thought about what they would see after entering the bridal chamber tonight, many ghosts still felt like they took a breath of cold air. Although the city lord said to the outside world that maintaining Qin Zishan's extremely yin body was just to suck out the ghost energy of some servants in the house, and then wait for them to rest and recover, then provide Qin Zishan to suck it for a few days. But many ghosts are not stupid, and they know very well that this extremely yin body is a physique that ghosts fear. Once Miss Qin sucks a little harder, it may be enough to make the ghost fly away in an instant. The poor guy who was chosen as the husband for this wedding would probably die again soon, even if he hadn't been completely drained that night. There is also the little girl who was said to be a living being who was preparing for Miss Qin's wedding. I have been dead and have been in the underworld for so many years. Let alone seeing her, I have never heard of anything about living beings being able to enter the underworld. This credibility is really a bit low. But what if it really happened? I heard before I was alive that ghosts can greatly increase their strength by eating human children. Is it possible that the lady really plans to eat her? Hiss, we are still human beings after all. If this is the case, it would be really crazy. Ghosts in the underworld can maintain their sanity almost as clearly as when they were alive. Therefore, most of their thoughts are not as crazy as those of ghosts. There are actually many ghosts who are dissatisfied with the city lord and Miss Qin who sucks ghost energy. However, due to the terrifying strength of the city lord, he could only swallow his anger and discuss in low voices. On the stage, the competition has officially begun. The two ghosts on stage have obviously completely different styles of painting. One is a tall and muscular young ghost, and the other is a scholar ghost who may have been intercepted and killed by a gangster on the road, and now has half a knife stuck in his chest. The two ghosts met on the stage, and their faces were both paler than the ghosts. The winner will escape disaster, and the loser will probably be chosen. This win or loss may be a matter of life and death. As if he felt that he would definitely not be able to win against such a tall and powerful person, the scholar looked sad and begged as soon as he came on stage. "This strong man, brother, look at you, you are tall and strong, but you are also stupid and ugly. I'm afraid that even if you lose, the lady will most likely look down on you. Just let me go and just go along with it as a ghost. Otherwise, I am so handsome and I will definitely die if I lose. You." The strong ghost almost got so angry that he cursed loudly. "It's not like I don't have other advantages because I'm ugly. What if I get selected? Do you have other advantages?" "Nonsense. What, why can't I see it? Being ugly is not a problem, but mine is big." Halfway through the words, the sturdy young man's face turned red. Even if he was a ghost, he was a little embarrassed to continue saying this. "Anyway, if you talk with your fists today, if you insult me and want me to let go, I'll beat you to death, you little bastard." After holding back his anger for a long time, on the stage, the strong young man had no intention of showing any mercy. "Take one step forward." With a bang punch, the young man's right arm was full and he punched it out suddenly. This punch was so fast that the scholar ghost had no room to react. Before the panic in his eyes was completely filled, he received it heavily on his face. He staggered after being beaten and almost fell to the ground. Even though he barely stood still, his eyes were filled with stars and darkness, and he was obviously stunned from being beaten. Only then did the scholar realize that the competition between the two had already begun. "You don't have martial ethics." Gritting his teeth in anger, the scholar quickly put on airs, imitating the heroes in the book and posing like a tiger and a crane. "Since you don't follow martial ethics, don't blame me for using all my strength." However, although the flower stand is good looking, his little strength is not enough to look good at all. There were only a few punches in the exchange, and my own fists hitting others had no effect, but the fists punched by the other party were simply soul-piercing. After a while, the scholar was beaten until his nose was bruised and his face was swollen. He cried for mercy. Amid the shouts, another punch came, hitting him so hard that stars appeared in his eyes and he flew away. Bang, bang. Seeing the scholar rolling down miserably from the ring, there was a burst of cheers from the audience. "Okay, good fight. This kind of arrogant and polite scum deserves to be beaten. That's right, it's so good to play. It makes me feel happy and makes me feel comfortable all over." The voices of discussion rang out one after another. Listening to the cheers and applause, a little girl pulled her mother and asked curiously, "But Mom, what did that person mean when he just said mine is big?" "This, you are still young, there is no need for you to know this." Upon hearing this innocent question, her mother suddenly showed a hint of panic. "But I have been dead for hundreds of years." The little girl protested unconvinced. "That won't work either. It's better to wait until you are reincarnated and grow up before asking others." The child's mother was a little embarrassed and refused to reveal anything, and her eyes were evasive as if she was hiding something. "What do you mean?" The little girl could only tilt her head, totally confused. At this moment, as the two stepped off the stage, the competition on the ring continued quickly. In order to save their souls, all the ghosts who went up tried their best and never admitted defeat. Therefore, the fighting scene was quite intense, and many of them even made the ghosts' eyes light up. The winning ghosts cheered and excitedly stepped off the stage and ran away. As for the losing ghosts, they all trembled and stared at Chinsishin, who was looking at this place. What awaits them may very well be the choice of fate. Especially those ghosts who have good looks and strength, and even feel that they have stepped half a foot into the coffin. No, they have already stepped once, and they have to step again. Seeing that many ghosts have finished the competition, there are almost a dozen who lost the game and were left behind. The emotions in their hearts became more and more uneasy and frightened. Looking at each other, they hoped to find a ghost who is more handsome and better than themselves. But I found that everyone's level seemed to be on the same level, and it was difficult to tell who was better. At this time, the last two people also walked onto the stage. One was tall and strong, and it looked like he might have been a cultivator when he was alive. And the other? He. Looking at Nai Chen on the stage, his handsome and heroic figure made many people stunned at the same time. Even Qin Zishan, who was looking in this direction, had a slightly changed look. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 325. Damn, he's so handsome. Damn it, are there such handsome ghosts in the underworld? Even in the underworld, the temperament of the Suangu holy body is still universal. The moment Nai Chen appeared on the ring, there was an uproar. There were even cheers and screams. Looking at the arena, even Qin Zishan's eyes seemed to be attracted, and she couldn't help but change slightly. Obviously, she has never seen such an outstanding handsome appearance in the underworld for so long. The shouts came one after another, making the atmosphere near the ring extremely lively. Coupled with the bright lights specially prepared for today, it is completely impossible to feel that this is the underworld. However, many people also realized another problem. I heard that Miss Jean also attaches great importance to appearance, so she decided to make the final selection herself. This seemingly new ghost in the city is so handsome, I suddenly feel that if he loses, he will definitely be selected. I also feel that once he loses, he will definitely not be able to escape Qin Zishan's clutches. The problem is, everyone who was talking about it looked at the opponent opposite Nai Chen on the ring. Suddenly I recalled that this guy seemed to have been a self-cultivation practitioner during his lifetime. Therefore, even if he becomes a ghost now, the power of his soul and his own strength have not declined. When he first entered the city, all the ghosts who dared to provoke him were beaten to a black and blue face, which was extremely cruel. His fighting prowess once shocked all the ghosts. Since then, although this physical cultivator has kept a low profile and never done anything, there is no one who dares to provoke him anymore. In our entire Luji city, I'm afraid there aren't many who can defeat him. Indeed, with his strength, I'm afraid that little brother is almost certain to lose. Hi, if you say so. No, 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 I'm afraid we won't see this handsome guy tomorrow. Among the discussions, it seemed as if Nai Chen had been sentenced to death. After all, no one thought he could defeat this once famous physical practitioner in Luji city. Yang Hongii, physical cultivation. The state of physical cultivation during his lifetime can rival those of the Xianyuan realm. Please pay attention, friends. At this moment, Yang Hongii on the stage raised his hand to Nai Chen. His attitude sounded good, but between his words and his expression, he didn't take Nai Chen seriously at all. Obviously, he didn't seem to think that the handsome guy in front of him was ridiculously handsome at all, but he probably just had the appearance of a new ghost who could compete with him. I am Nai Chen, a handsome man with ordinary appearance. Nai Chen also politely responded by cupping his hands. Oh, interesting. Hearing this self-introduction, Yang Hongii couldn't help but be slightly startled. But soon, his eyes became sharp. However, this matter may be related to your life and mine, so my friend, don't think that I can hold back. In this competition, Yang Hongii will definitely use his full strength. But it doesn't matter, I also want to see how powerful brother Yang is. Nai Chen smiled slightly and responded quickly. He does hope that there will be someone who can defeat him, but at present, this hope seems to be a little too much. Yang Hongii, who didn't know the truth, heard this sentence, and a confident smile instantly filled his mouth. At the same time, the momentum surged in an instant and became extremely awe-inspiring. In that case, Don't blame me for being ruthless. Yang Hongii had always been quite confident in his own strength as he was a powerful physical practitioner during his lifetime. Even in the entire Luji city, apart from the city lord, there were few characters who could make him fearful. But for some reason, when facing Nai Chen, Yang Hongii couldn't help but feel an inexplicable fear. It was as if the other party was hiding extremely terrifying strength. Could it be an illusion? Yang Hongii obviously didn't believe that he could encounter ghosts worthy of his fear in the small Luji city. Suppressing the inexplicable feeling in his heart, he had already made up his mind. In that case, don't blame me for going all out. Yang Hongii's legs sank, and all the strength in his body suddenly condensed. Although it didn't move, the still body seemed to contain more terrifying power. Those eyes were as sharp as swords, and the clenched fists were constantly brewing with terrifying power. Although he hadn't punched yet, just standing there, a virtual image of a lion seemed to appear behind Yang Hongii. When the lion raised its head high, it burst out with the majesty of the Beast King. It seems to be able to penetrate people's hearts, its majestic pressure is so vast. For a time, even the ghosts who were watching could feel the terrifying power of Yang Hongii. How much terrifying power is hidden in this punch? As expected of being a body cultivator during his lifetime, this strength is incomparable to ordinary ghosts like us. I'm afraid there are few in the entire Luji city who can match his strength. Shouts of exclamation sounded one after another. The power that Yang Hongii unleashed had truly shocked them completely. There are no longer any doubts about whether Nai Chen can win. What they care about is whether Nai Chen can block the blow. Is it even possible that he could be completely wiped out by this terrifying punch? After all, if Yang Hongii had such strength, it was almost the first time they had seen him. My friend, I'm sorry. Feeling the respectful gazes and calls from the people around him, Yang Hongii smiled with a hint of confidence. The power condensed in his fist became stronger and stronger, and the power that had been brewing in his legs and waist for a long time also slowly flowed out. As Yang Hongii twisted his body, his hidden power was like a sleeping lion waking up. His terrifying majesty made the onlookers around him feel a tremor in their hearts. At this moment, facing Nai Chen, who for some reason made him feel inexplicably afraid, Yang Hongii had no intention of holding back. A punch came down like a lion biting down, carrying an extremely powerful momentum, and suddenly bombarded. Even the air in front of him seemed to be torn apart by this punch. It is completely unimaginable how terrifying the power of this punch is. I am afraid that any ghost that comes into contact with this punch will be instantly annihilated. Be careful! The exclamation could not help but echo, and many ghosts even thought that Nai Chen might be in trouble in the next moment. However, a punch came down. They were filled with extremely stunned eyes, but they saw clearly. This punch that all ghosts thought was extremely terrifying, not only did it not have the possibility of imagining that it directly blasted Nai Chen's soul to pieces. It even hit Nai Chen, just like tickling. Bang! Yang Hongii's own fist, however, could not withstand the huge force at all, and it was directly broken. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 326. The force rebounded from this punch directly shattered Yang Hongii's fist and half of his arm. His soul was damaged, and a burst of inexplicable pain made his whole soul tremble, and his eyes could not hide a bit of astonishment and horror. How possible? Yang Hongii's eyes were completely filled with fear. Damage to the soul is fatal to any ghost. Compared to this, he never expected that the other party would not take action at all. That body is not only as hard as ironstone, but also completely unshakable. It even amplified the power in the fist countless times and rebounded it all. His own punch almost knocked him out of his wits. His soul trembled, and the painful feeling that almost drove Yang Hongii to pieces almost completely swallowed him up. You, What exactly were you when you were alive? At this moment, Yang Hongai's eyes were filled with fear. He could no longer imagine how terrifying Nai Chen's strength was if he could achieve this step. The Holy Emperor of the Bahai Realm? No, maybe even more powerful. How could the ghost of the powerful emperor appear here and hide his identity? For a moment, although Nai Chen just stood there quietly, Yang Hongai felt as oppressive as if he was facing the god of death. He didn't even have the slightest doubt that Nai Chen's casual palm was enough to turn him into ashes in an instant. Staggering and retreating, Yang Hongai, who was completely filled with fear, had completely ignored the surrounding situation. He staggered and fell directly onto the stage. He was so disgraced from the fall that he looked at the ring, but Yang Hongai's expression was filled with only fear. Because no ghost could detect the terrifying aura that was completely contained in his body. He was the only one who felt how terrifying the Nai Chen's strength was in one punch. I won't fight, I won't fight. As if going crazy, Yang Hongai fell to the audience and shouted loudly. Completely ignoring the gazes of the surrounding ghosts, he actually got up, desperately pushed away the surrounding crowd, and fled towards the distance. For a moment, the onlookers were a little dumbfounded. Originally, they all thought that this horizontally trained physique, which was comparable to that of a Xianyuan realm monk during his lifetime, would surely win. Unexpectedly, he punched, and killed himself? Is this physical practitioner a liar, or? Looking at Nai Chen, many ghosts showed a trace of unconcealed fear in their eyes. There seems to be only one possible situation now, and that is that this ghost named Nai Chen, who is new to the city, has hidden his strength. Moreover, the strength may be far more terrifying than they imagined. Is it over like this? Damn it, this brother can't help but beat him up. The scene in front of him also made Nai Chen a little stunned. He originally wanted to pretend to lose and was selected by Qin Zishan to enter the urban management mansion and enter the bridal chamber. In this way, they can find out whether the creature they called entering the underworld is really Chu Qingyu. As long as you lose, you can save a lot of trouble. But he didn't expect that the body that was so powerful just now was too weak. Nai Chen originally planned to pretend to fall to the ground after being punched and admit defeat. But before he could fall down, the opponent's fist was shattered. Hey, it seems I can only find a way to sneak in quietly at night. Nai Chen let out a long sigh. The most convenient way seems to be unavailable. There is a threat lurking somewhere in the underworld. He must seize the time without any delay. If there was still no way to find Chu Qingyu, he wouldn't mind heading straight into the city lord's mansion. Just when you, Nai Chen, were about to leave, you just took a step when a voice suddenly came from behind you. Stop. The source of the voice was none other than Qin Zishan. She looked at Nai Chen's back with a smile on her lips and a trace of greed in her eyes. This young lady's husband has been chosen, and he is it? Her finger actually pointed directly at Nai Chen. As soon as these words came out, the ghost's onlookers were in an uproar, and even the Yin soldiers beside Qin Zishan were stunned for a moment. Qin Zishan usually does bad things, but this time she almost completely aroused public outrage. Didn't you say that the winner can leave? As the daughter of the city lord, you actually broke your promise. I have done evil things for a long time, and I have secretly caused many ghosts to scatter. Now I still treat promises as a joke. Do you not take us ghosts in Luji City at all? He directly violated his promise and completely angered the ghosts in the city who were usually oppressed and bullied. Even the Yin soldiers around Qin Zishan quickly advised. Miss, why don't you forget it, the physical training you just lost is not bad. Such a strong soul should be enough for you to drink for a long time. If I break my promise now, I'm afraid it will cause a lot of trouble. However, Qin Zishan not only did not listen to their advice at all, but her eyes were cold and she licked her lips lightly, with a hint of greed in her expression. This is the ghost, I have chosen it. From now on, I will not only let him be my husband, but I will also let him maintain my extremely yin body. Even if he wants to die, I will never let him lose his soul easily. Capture him and bring him to my house. I will hold a wedding ceremony with him today. Qin Zishan seemed to be completely attracted to Nai Chen, and her greed became more intense. But the boy showed so much strength just now, can we defeat him? I don't know, the lady has already given the order, come on. The surrounding Yin soldiers looked at each other for a moment, and then had no choice but to lift the sedan. Catch him, and Our Lady will hold a wedding ceremony with this Nai Chen today. Several Yin soldiers quickly rushed forward and grabbed Nai Chen tightly. But they discovered that Nai Chen had no intention of resisting at all. Thank you, good brother. Not only that, Nai Chen also patted the shoulder of the Yin soldier beside him. Damn it, brother, aren't you afraid? Our Lady has a very Yin body, she might suck you up completely. The Yin soldiers next to him felt guilty and asked in shock. However, Nai Chen smiled softly, as if he didn't take Qin Zishan into his eyes at all. Don't worry, no one can suck me dry except the Empress. At that time, it is not certain who will suck whom. Empress? What Empress? All the Yin soldiers around him were stunned when they heard these misty words. But under their astonished gazes, Nai Chen walked into the sedan without hesitation. What the hell? All the Yin soldiers were completely dumbfounded. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 327. Why did he walk in by himself? He seems to be totally indifferent. Isn't he afraid of being sucked dry by the young lady? I don't know. I have never seen such a fearless ghost. Could it be that he has never died? He seems to be dead. He should have died before. But even so. Even the ghost soldiers who carried the sedan chair were stunned by Nai Chen's fearless operation. However, if they want to save this soul, they still have to do their work. One team of ghost soldiers carried the sedan chair that Nai Chen was sitting in, and another team of ghost soldiers carried the sedan chair that Qin Zishan was sitting in. The two sedan chairs went towards the direction of the city lord's mansion. Today is the wedding night of our young lady Qin. Even though the people around were opposed, the ghost soldiers were beating gongs and drums and were very lively. After all, as long as Nai Chen was carried back, their lives would be more secure. Miss Qin is actually getting married. Along the way, many ghosts noticed the two sedan chairs and the grand scene. In addition to being stunned, most of their expressions were a bit complicated. I don't know whether they should be glad that Qin Zishan will be able to kill some ghosts in the city after marrying into her husband's family, or pity this unlucky guy who was chosen. I'm afraid it won't be long before his soul is sucked away. Dong, dong, dong. Soon, the team entered the bustling street with extreme luxury and ostentation, and carried it into the open door of the city lord's mansion. Congratulations, miss. There was a roar of applause on both sides, and the entire city lord's mansion was also brightly lit and extremely lively. However, this so-called grand wedding did not have any other ceremony. Qin Zishan walked out of the sedan chair with a slightly cold smile on her lips. Carry him into the bridal chamber. Yes. The ghost soldiers quickly obeyed the order and carried Nai Chen's sedan chair away. As she looked at the sedan chair going away, the smile on Qin Zishan's lips became more intense, but with a chill that made people's hearts shiver. Dad, I have chosen this person. Meeting him inexplicably, being valued inexplicably, it is really a kind of fate. Qin Zishan licked her lips as if she was looking at the prey that was about to be swallowed. This made her already bright red lips even more red as if stained with a layer of blood, which was a bit creepy. Well, not bad, the the ghost energy revealed in the sedan chair is very strong. It seems that this kid should be enough for you to absorb for a while. But you should also be careful not to absorb too much. I will find a way to maintain his soul. In this way, you can always enjoy it. The soul of a middle-aged man floated out from the shadows. The momentum between his eyebrows was enough to make people daunted. Qin Hung, who was once a powerful emperor, was naturally far from being comparable to other ghosts in this Luji city. Even though the body is dead, the fighting power that the soul can burst out is also extremely amazing. It is also because of this that he can keep Qin Zishan, who has an extremely yin body and needs to absorb souls to survive, from doing evil in Luji city. But apart from this, I have put the creature that landed from Lanchuan continent into your room. On the wedding night, eating her should greatly improve your physique. At this moment, Qin Hung's eyes were cold and frightening. The original awe-inspiring aura of the emperor seemed to be tainted with a bit of evil. Don't worry, father, I will certainly not miss this great tonic. I didn't expect that there would be a creature that could enter the underworld. It was specially prepared for me. The smile on her face was gloomy and terrifying, and Qin Zishan couldn't help but lick her lips greedily. He also looked towards the bridal chamber. At this moment, in the room, Nai Chen looked around and couldn't help but smile coldly. On the surface, it was a grand wedding. But in fact, the entire city lord's mansion had no intention of holding a banquet. I was taken directly into the bridal chamber, and even a spiritual lock was tied to my hand. This spiritual lock is condensed from the netherworld, which can firmly bind the soul. Once tied, almost no ghost can break free from its bondage. It's a pity that Nai Chen is not a soul at all. The ghost energy condensed on his body is just a disguised and concealed breath. As long as he wants to break through the soul lock, he can directly smash it at any time. It's just a creature from Lanchuan continent. Where is she now? Is she Chu Qingyu? Nai Chen now wants to know only this one thing. And at this moment, a sound of footsteps came from a distance, which was obviously Qin Zishan's footsteps. With a creak, the door opened. Qin Zishan entered the bridal chamber. Although the spirits in the underworld are all blue in color, and look similar to their appearance in life, they are far less scary than the ghosts described in books. But at this moment, the cold smile on Qin Zishan's lips is particularly weird and terrifying. Your name is Nai Chen? As early as when you just stepped onto the ring, I saw you at first sight. I heard that you seemed to have just entered Luji city not long ago. I didn't expect that you and I are so destined. Qin Zishan walked in front of Nai Chen with a smile, and saw Nai Chen's hands were tied, and seemed to be completely relieved. Don't worry, I'm still very interested in you, and I won't suck you out of my mind like I do with other ghosts. If you can satisfy me, maybe I can get a share of your pie when you devour the creature from Lanchuan continent later. How about you, do you want to thank me properly? With a smile on her lips, Qin Zishan looked at Nai Chen and her eyes became obviously more greedy. It's really good. I haven't encountered such a strong ghost energy for a long time. This kind of ghostly energy is just right for my extremely yin body. Are you saying that as long as I satisfy you, you can get a piece of my pie when you devour that creature? Nai Chen suddenly asked calmly, seemingly without any fear. Of course, I will seal her deep in another room and bring her here later. Qin Zishan responded quickly, but she was also a little surprised. You're not afraid? Haha, it's exactly what I thought, completely different. However, this really meets my requirements. Licking her lips greedily, Qin Zishan's lips had turned ferocious blood red. And those eyes were filled with boundless desire. Let me taste what you taste like. Suddenly, Qin Zishan's face revealed a hint of ferocity, and she pounced directly on Nai Chen. He contracted his mouth, sucked hard on Nai Chen, and firmly grabbed his arm. But suddenly, Qin Zishan, who was originally extremely rampant, suddenly changed her expression, and her eyes were filled with boundless fear. You! How is that possible? Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 328. The yin energy in the soul of an extremely yin body will be extremely weak. Although it will not have much impact during life, after death, in order to maintain the soul, Qin Zishan needs to constantly absorb the souls of others. For so many years, relying on Qin Hung to support her. In order to maintain the soul, she has already absorbed countless ghosts. Ghosts with better luck can barely survive after being sucked, but they will also be severely injured and difficult to recover. Ghosts with less luck will be directly shattered by her sucking and will never be reborn. This time, Qin Zishan invited a son-in-law into the mansion and held a wedding on the surface, just to find a soul that can be absorbed for a long time. But she never thought, how is it possible? The yin energy in my body is constantly losing. Feeling the changes in her body, Qin Zishan was suddenly shocked. Originally, she was going to absorb Nichien's soul, but she was shocked to find that what she absorbed was not yin energy at all. And the extremely rich, blazing yang qi like the scorching sun. Such pure and rich yang qi, you are not dead at all, you are alive. Qin Zishan's face turned pale in an instant, filled with fear. She never thought that Nichian, who was filled with such a strong ghost aura, would be a living person. The body was extremely lacking in yin qi, and a living creature, especially the yang qi on Nichian, was as dazzling and blazing as the sun in the sky. This rich yang qi was exactly what she feared. The wisps of yang qi flowing out made Qin Zishan feel as if her body was about to melt, and it was extremely hot. Let me go, let me go. She shouted in fear, but found that Nichian was already covered with a layer of light golden light. Not only was this extremely hot breath sweeping towards her. The yin qi on her soul seemed to be attracted, and it continuously gathered towards Nichien's body. When they came into contact, the yin qi instantly melted into the golden light on the surface of Nichien's body, and disappeared without a trace. What is this? Even a creature with strong yang qi can never have such an effect. Qin Zishan stared at Nichian in amazement. But suddenly she realized that the golden light covering Nichien's body was actually flowing with a very mysterious and ancient breath. The extremely mysterious breath that seemed to come from the ancient time seemed to have the sound of the great way slowly floating on it. In an instant, Qin Zishan suddenly recalled an ancient but rare physique that almost no one had ever seen, the Xiangu saint body. The Xiangu 8 meridians inherit the destiny of heaven and earth and follow the creation of the universe. The first meridian alone can be as hot and sacred as the rising sun, making ghosts bow their heads in awe. Is this the Xiangu saint body? An absurd idea inexplicably emerged, but it kept hovering in Qin Zishan's mind. And the boundless and inexplicable fear almost completely devoured her. If it is really the Xiangu saint body. When looking at her own soul, Qin Zishan finally discovered in horror. Her soul had already begun to melt in the sacred and scorching high temperature. The endless ghost energy was attracted and gathered towards Nichian. And in an instant, it was absorbed and swallowed by the golden light on his body. She had always sucked other people's souls, but at this moment, the situation was completely reversed. Qin Zishan's panic could no longer be concealed. How did the living being come to the underworld? Let me go, if my father knew that you attacked me, he would never forgive you. Qin Zishan screamed when she realized that her body was slowly melting and the pain of her soul was damaged. The fear in her eyes became more and more diffuse. You want to eat other ghosts, and now you are being eaten. Is there anything strange? However, Nichian just smiled at her. Not only did he not intend to stop, the flames on his hands burned fiercely. In an instant, the soul chain tied to his hands burned. This soul chain that can bind the soul seems to have no effect at all. The soul chain is completely useless. You You are really a living person. At this moment, Qin Zishan already knew Nai Chen's identity. Nai Chen no longer hid it, and tore the soul chain apart with a light touch. The rich ghost energy that originally covered his body dissipated instantly. The yang energy that burst out continuously, like the sun at its peak at noon, exudes an extremely hot temperature. It was like a lion roaring. The blazing flames made Qin Zishan's soul melt at a speed visible to the naked eye. The intense pain almost completely devoured her, and Qin Zishan screamed frantically. No! Let me go, if you really kill me, my father. Huh! A whistling hot wind swept past, but directly wrapped Qin Zishan's soul in it. In the horrified eyes, the hot breath swept in from all directions. Qin Zishan could not say the next sentence. Like a mosquito under the lamp, it was burned to ashes in an instant. Even in the underworld, there are still people who rely on my father for food. Nai Chen sighed and slowly put away the power emitted by the Xiangu saint body. The candle light flickered in the bridal chamber. Except for the lingering hot breath, it seemed as if nothing had happened. The ghost soldiers outside were stationed not far away. They originally wanted to guard here to prevent Nai Chen from escaping. But they had no idea that their lady had been burned to ashes. But before that, Nai Chen couldn't help but feel the mystery of the Xiangu saint body. Even though there was a huge gap in strength, he didn't even make a move, but he could make Qin Zishan burn to ashes on the spot. It was enough to see how powerful the Xiangu saint body was in restraining ghosts. Throw away the spirit lock and observe the surroundings. The most important thing now is of course not just to wipe out the city lord's daughter with an extremely yin body. But just now she said that the creature from Lanchuan continent was in the next room. Nai Chen walked out of the house. Sure enough, in addition to the brightly lit guest room, there was another smaller room connected. Pushing open the door, there was a wooden coffin in the dim room. It was obviously unreasonable for a coffin to exist in the underworld. Lighting a candle, Nai Chen stared at the coffin. The coffin was filled with a mysterious ghost aura, as if it wanted to seal the person inside firmly here. Could it be that the Empress is really in here? Nai Chen was a little confused, and he quickly stretched out his hand and placed it on the coffin. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 329. Uluru. As if he sensed someone coming, there were continuous knocks and extremely cute squeaking sounds coming from inside the coffin board. It was obvious who was struggling inside the coffin and hitting the coffin in an attempt to escape. But the problem is, does such a childish and cute voice belong to the Empress? Although when using techniques such as pulling wool, the Empress often made strange sounds. But the voice coming from the coffin was really a little childish. Suddenly, Nai Chen also recalled the rumors he had heard in Luji City and on the road. Many ghosts knew that a living being was captured in the city lord's mansion, but they didn't know what to call this living person from Lanchuan continent. But they all named them little girls. If you think about it carefully, with the figure of a royal sister according to the standards of an empress, and the cold and majestic persona of an emperor-level strongman, no matter how you put it, there is absolutely no way she could be mistaken for a little girl. Uluru. Soon there was a pitiful call from the coffin, which seemed to be about to cry. Nai Chen couldn't help but start to have some doubts. Could it be that the person caught in the coffin was not the Empress, but a little girl from Lanchuan continent? However, it is extremely difficult to enter the underworld. Even the Blossom Saint and Aolan cannot enter the underworld without the protection of sacred objects. How could it be possible that by chance, a little girl opened up the space and entered the underworld under the blessing of a sacred thing? It seems I can only see it with my own eyes. The situation was really a little weird. Nai Chen had given up meaningless thinking and put his hand on the coffin board, preparing to open the coffin. The coffin was covered with a thick layer of ghost energy and formations. Obviously, it is to prevent outsiders from opening it and to completely suppress the people inside. This rich ghost energy is probably not inferior to the strength of the powerful emperor. In this Luji city, only the city lord Qin Hung should be able to set up such a formation. Open the first line of the Suangu holy body. On Nichien's arms, golden lines spread like magma. If he wanted to, he could use brute force to smash the coffin into pieces. But in order to prevent the being inside, who might be the empress, from getting hurt, Nichien just pinched the center of these ghost energy formations. Then, the aura and power all over his body condensed in his hands. Bang! The golden lines on the arms are becoming more and more dazzling, and there is an extremely ancient and mysterious aura. Although the formation formed by the condensed ghost energy looks extremely strange and mysterious. But when he came into contact with the aura exuded by the Suangu holy body, he clearly showed a hint of fear. Suangu holy body. This existence, which was once hailed as the most powerful holy body in ancient times, has almost inherited the creation of heaven and earth, and is perfect. Especially the gloomy ghost energy, as if restrained from the source, has been rapidly retreating. Even those extremely tight defensive formations were already somewhat self-defeating. 72 mysterious gates and 36 fortress gates. This unpredictable ghost energy formation, at this moment, has changed from being interconnected and helping each other, to becoming a piece of scattered sand. The permeating ghost spirit kept escaping outwards, seeming to be extremely frightening. Bang! There was another breaking sound, and a crack appeared in the coffin board that originally seemed to be unbreakable. Fire burned on his arm. The time had come, and Nichien did not hesitate to take action. The endless spiritual energy continued to condense and turned into an extremely sharp blade. Click. The coffin, which was originally filled with a strong ghostly aura and seemed to be extremely sturdy, suddenly shattered. The fragments scattered in all directions and were deeply embedded in the surrounding walls. Under the dim candlelight, Nichien finally saw the figure in the coffin clearly. Sure enough, just like the voice, it was a little girl who was sealed in the coffin. However, this little girl exudes a completely different aura. Although bound by the locks made of ghost energy, her watery and beautiful eyes had a somewhat cold feeling. Her petite body carried a dignity that was completely inappropriate for her age. The faint fragrance of orchid and the feeling of coldness are actually very similar to Empress Qingyu. If it weren't for the fact that she only looked like a little girl, Nichien might have actually seen this little girl as a certain great emperor. Wrong. Nichien, who had just thought of this, suddenly realized something was wrong. Looking at the little girl's petite but extremely delicate and cute face, and her water-clear eyes, Nichien suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of familiarity. This feeling was all too familiar to him. You, Empress. Suddenly, Nichien realized this serious problem. Although she looks extremely petite in appearance, this little girl has a lot of similarities with Chu Qingyu in terms of temperament and appearance. In addition, it is extremely difficult to enter the underworld, so only he and the Empress should enter. The evidence seems to be completely conclusive. So why did the Empress turn into a little girl and be locked in a coffin? Nichien was also a little confused and quickly turned a spiritual energy into a sharp blade. The spiritual locks that bound Chu Qingyu and restricted her movement and voice were removed. Taking a long breath, Chu Qingyu finally said angrily in a milky voice. Damn it, this emperor can finally speak. Although this voice is a little childish, it is indeed very similar to Chu Qingyu's clear and beautiful voice. That is to say. Puff. Looking at Chu Qingyu's cute move as she barely stepped out of the coffin with her calf, tripping and almost falling to the ground, Nichien couldn't help but burst out laughing. I finally came out. I just arrived in this world and it seemed like I was discovered by that guy. Hey, what are you laughing at? Chu Qingyu, who was talking, suddenly noticed Nichien's uncontrollable smile. and he saw the extremely strange look in Nai Chen's eyes. Is there something strange on my face? Chu Qingyu looked down curiously. But instantly, his eyes were filled with surprise. She could clearly see that her little hands and feet had shrunk countless times. The height of his body could only barely reach Nai Chen's waist. Here, what happened? Chu Qingyu exclaimed in shock, but at the same time she noticed that her voice had become milky. She quickly used the reflective coffin board to see her reflection in it. But the moment she saw clearly, Chu Qingyu completely stayed where she was. Why have I turned into a little girl? The sound of milky exclamation echoed in the room. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 330. After arriving in the underworld, I spent a whole day looking for Chu Qingyu. Although Nai Chen was worried at first, afraid of any accidents. But at this moment, seeing the soft and cute expression of the Empress who always had a bit of awe-inspiring imperial power, Nai Chen couldn't help but laugh. Damn it, don't laugh, I don't know what's going on. Chu Qingyu was so ashamed and angry that she had never suffered such humiliation. She raised her little hand and tried to pinch Nai Chen's waist, but she suddenly found that not only her body had become smaller. The spiritual power in her body was almost zero, and she had completely returned to her childhood when she had just practiced. Even if she wanted to pinch Nai Chen, she couldn't do it at all. Oh no, I seem to remember that my body became so light after entering the underworld. Why on earth, I actually... Looking at her own pair of delicate little hands, Chu Qingyu was so anxious that she jumped up and down. I am definitely not a little girl. Although he still couldn't help but smile, Nai Chen thought for a moment and couldn't help but guess. Is it possible that because the underworld does not allow living beings to enter, although you can enter with the snow lotus, your body has returned to your childhood? It is very likely. I am afraid that there is no other power that can make me return to my childhood body. After thinking for a while, Chu Qingyu also nodded. There seemed to be a bit of seriousness in her expression. That feeling was like a child seriously thinking about why 1 + 1 = 2. Ouch, it hurts. Just when Chu Qingyu raised her head, she suddenly covered her head in pain. Although it didn't hurt at all, I don't know if it was because her body became smaller. Chu Qingyu actually felt a sore nose, and her eyes were pitifully wet with tears. Only then did she realize that the person who shot her was Nai Chen. Why did you shoot me? It didn't hurt at all, but the former cold and arrogant Empress actually felt aggrieved at this moment. Don't cry, I'm the Empress, not a child. Chu Qingyu tried her best to suppress the tears caused by her childish spirit. Unfortunately, this suppression didn't seem to have much effect. She sniffed lightly, and there were still tears in her eyes. Seeing this pitiful Chu, who tried her best to retract her tears for the dignity of being an empress, Nai Chen couldn't help laughing instantly. He quickly stroked Chu Qingyu's head and said softly. Sorry, actually I hit you for a very important reason. A very important reason. Chu Qingyu raised her head and stared at Nai Chen. The tears in her eyes had not yet dissipated, but there was still a sense of seriousness in her eyes. Nai Chen also nodded very seriously. Well, this reason is indeed very important, that is. I finally have this opportunity to bully you, my wife, so I can't let it go. I want to bully you once, ha ha ha. Halfway through, Nai Chen's tone suddenly changed, and he laughed unscrupulously. But, damn it. Chu Qingyu realized that she had been deceived. Nai Chen. It's a pity that no matter how the little fist was, the damage to Nai Chen was almost zero. The former emperor, now in a desperate situation, Chu Qingyu's nose was sour, and she looked pitiful as if she almost cried again. She never thought that not only did she have almost no spiritual power, but her body when she was a child was made of tears. If she didn't want to maintain the last bit of dignity, she might have cried again. Ding, the host has successfully made the Qingyu Empress cry. She is unprecedented in Lanchuan continent. She established the Tianyun Palace with her own strength. She is cold and majestic, and she is unparalleled in the world. The host is awesome. System reward, Dharma effect, Golden Sunday. Nai Chen. In the tone of the system, he seemed to hear deep admiration. But it is true that she can make the Qingyu Empress cry. I am afraid that it is not only in Lanchuan continent. Even if you search all over the world and countless other worlds, you will never find a second person. Woo 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 dot. At this moment, although Chu Qingyu's petite body is still holding back, she is trembling slightly with grievance, as if reflecting on why she has become this form. Otherwise, she will never be bullied by Nai Chen. But at this moment, Nai Chen, who was looking at this scene, couldn't help but smile knowingly and leaned down. And, he gently lifted Chu Qingyu's soft and smooth hair and kissed her forehead gently. Although this kiss was just a light touch, it was like an electric current that instantly spread throughout the body, causing Chu Qingyu to stop moving. Her slightly wet eyes were even slightly stagnant. It is likely that you have been affected by the ghost energy here because you have become like this in the underworld. Don't worry, my wife, I will probably find a way to recover soon. If it doesn't work, I will kill the man who caused the chaos in the imperial tomb and take you back to Lanchuan continent, right? And Nai Chen's gentle voice also came to her ears at this time. This voice seemed to be as warm as a spring breeze. There seemed to be a warm current spreading from the forehead that was kissed by Nai Chen just now. Chu Qingyu's delicate and cute face was slightly flushed. Humph, maybe. In that case, I'll wait patiently. With a slightly red face, Chu Qingyu still snorted with a strong attitude, hiding the panic that flashed through her heart just now. Haha, wife, you are worthy of it. I didn't expect that. Even your thinking when you were a child is almost the same as when you grow up. Nai Chen couldn't help laughing. Huh? What does that mean? Chu Qingyu tilted her head, a little confused. Same arrogant. Nai Chen suddenly answered. Nai Chen. Ah, damn it. Chu Qingyu was stunned for a moment before she suddenly reacted. Am I arrogant? Absolutely not. No. Should, not, right? The more she doubted in her heart, the more she felt powerless to refute. When she faced Nai Chen before, although she couldn't win the argument, she could at least suppress him with force. But now, I can't beat him, and I can't talk him out. This feeling is so frustrating. Nai Chen. Chu Qingyu raised her little fist and rushed towards Nai Chen shyly. Pa. No, Queen, your fist is too weak. I advise you to stop in time, otherwise, I will spank you in return. You. No. Don't. Chu Qingyu showed a trace of panic in an instant. She has always been the one to beat others. When has anyone ever spanked her? The most important thing is that I can't exert my strength at all now. If Nai Chen really intends to do this, I really won't have any power to resist. Haha, this is not up to you. Nai Chen pretended to approach step by step. Ah! Damn it! The candle light flickered, the figure was far away, and the atmosphere in the room was particularly warm and sweet. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 331. Woo woo woo. In the candlelight, Chu Qingyu, hiding in the corner, covered her buttocks and stared at Nai Chen pitifully. Under the strong resistance, her buttocks were saved. But the dignity of being a dignified empress was about to be lost. Fortunately, this is in the underworld, otherwise, I am afraid that I will not be able to see anyone in the future. I don't believe it, I can do it. Chu Qingyu didn't want to believe that she couldn't exert any power at all, stretched out her 5 fingers, and continuously gathered spiritual power in her palm. Et. After trying her best, as if all the strength in her body was used up, finally, a ray of light flashed in Chu Qingyu's palm. Could it be that this emperor is going to recover? But as the light flashed for a moment, only a popsicle that was less than the length of the index finger appeared in the palm of her hand. It was thin and short, and there was no cold breath of ice at all. And, in Chu Qingyu's gaze, with a sound of crack, it broke directly from the middle and fell to the ground. Too much. What is going on in the underworld? The fire of hope that suddenly appeared was extinguished in an instant. Chu Qingyu, who was affected by the child's body, had a burst of moisture in her eyes and almost cried directly. Ahem, don't be angry, my wife, after all, it was a rare opportunity to bully you just now, and no one would let it go. As for your body, maybe it will recover when the sun rises. Looking at Chu Qingyu's pitiful appearance, Nai Chen couldn't help but laugh. After all, there is absolutely no other opportunity to bully the empress like this except now. It's a pity that the buttocks were not beaten just now. But my wife, what should we do next? While speaking, Nai Chen also restrained his playful attitude, with a hint of seriousness. Although the warm candle light in the house was swaying, the dark blue sky outside and the strong ghost aura were enough to show the danger in the underworld. Moreover, Chu Qingyu's body has returned to her childhood, and she is still unable to fully exert her strength as a great emperor. This underworld is almost full of dangers. Chu Qingyu's eyes paused for a while, and she became serious. Although her body has become smaller, her memory has not been affected at all. I once talked to Sister Ming. In the underworld, the Netherworld dynasty controls the way for ghosts to pass through the underworld. It is also the Netherworld dynasty that controls all the ghosts in the underworld. If you want to find the ghost who attacked the Imperial tomb, I'm afraid you can only go to the Netherworld dynasty and find Sister Ming first. Otherwise, the underworld is so big that it may be difficult to find any clues. Netherworld dynasty. Chu Qingyu's words made Nai Chen nod his head. Indeed, if you search blindly, it is almost like looking for a needle in a haystack. Only by going to the Netherworld dynasty can the process be accelerated. Most importantly, the situation in Lanchuan continent is probably extremely urgent now. Saint Fanhua and Aolan hid behind the gate, so there was no need to worry about their safety. But the many cultivators guarding outside the Emperor's Mausoleum Canyon would probably be caught in a deadly battle again soon. If they could not resist the endless skeleton army and the captured Emperor's body, they would withdraw from the Emperor's Mausoleum. I am afraid that no matter how strong the formation guarding the Emperor's Mausoleum is, it may be broken in just half a month. By then, the skeleton army and the Emperor will wreak havoc on the Lanchuan continent. With the current cultivation of the cultivators in the Lanchuan continent and the extremely rare emperors, I am afraid that not only will there be a great loss of life, but the entire continent may suffer a catastrophe. In that case, let's go to the Netherworld dynasty as soon as possible. Nai Chen smiled slightly. You can go to the Netherworld dynasty, but I have to find a way to recover my body first. Looking at her height that was not even as high as Nai Chen's waist, Chu Qingyu was so anxious that she jumped up and down. She never wanted to experience this kind of scene where Nai Chen bullied her, hit her head, or even threatened her with spanking. Otherwise, when she returned to Lanchuan continent, her reputation as the Queen of Qingyu would be completely lost. Don't worry, my wife, I'll protect you anyway. What are you worried about? Nai Chen was amused by this anxious and silly behavior. Yes. Squeak. Just when Chu Qingyu was about to resist, the sound of the door opening suddenly sounded. Miss, do you need to? With the sound of the door opening, a maid soul walked into the room and spoke at the same time. But just halfway through, when she raised her head, she saw the petite bodies of Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu. At this moment, the ghost aura on Nai Chen had faded, and Chu Qingyu was emitting a strong breath of life. In the room, Qin Zishan's disappearing aura had long disappeared. Only the flickering candlelight remained, and the whole house was filled with a strong yang aura. Miss is dead. How could you be alive? The maid took a step back and opened her eyes wide in shock. She looked at the two people with horror. She never thought that Nai Chen, who was filled with such a strong ghost aura, would be a living person from Lanchuan continent. She didn't know how Nai Chen entered the underworld, but she knew one thing: the girl who was originally used as a sacrifice was released. And these two people joined forces to kill Qin Zishan. In this Luji city, Qin Hung, who once had the power of the emperor during his lifetime, was equivalent to authority. No ghost can defeat him, and no ghost does not fear him. No matter how many souls Qin Zishan had sucked, no ghost dared to attack her because of Qin Hung. But today, the maid suddenly stepped back one after another, looking at Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu with horror in her eyes. Miss was killed. He fell to the ground, and the shouts of fear echoed throughout the city lord's mansion. In an instant, countless ghosts heard this voice. Aren't you going to stop her? Chu Qingyu was a little confused. If Nai Chen had taken action to kill the maid earlier, the city lord Qin Hung might not have known about it at all. It is completely possible to sneak out of Luji city without anyone noticing. Of course it's not necessary. Nai Chen shook his head, with a hint of killing intent in his eyes. I dare to capture you, my wife, and I want to use you as a sacrifice. Before I leave Luji city, I will destroy this ghost city lord to ashes at any cost. My daughter, who is it? At this time, a roar echoed through the entire mansion, carrying a sense of sadness. The powerful and majestic Yin Qi soared into the sky, and Qin Hung was completely angered.